Every empire claims its money is safe. Every government insists its promises will stand forever. Yet time and time again, history proves otherwise. From ancient Rome to revolutionary France, from the Confederacy to modern Lebanon, people have woken up to find their life savings worthless, their paychecks meaningless, and their futures erased by systems they once believed were solid. Collapse isn't rare. It's the recurring theme of civilization. The question isn't if financial systems fail, but how you'll survive when they do. The greatest illusion in finance is permanence. We look at our bank accounts, our national currencies, and assume they're built on bedrock. But money isn't stone, it's trust. And trust can vanish in an instant. That's why history, though brutal, is one of our best teachers. Every collapse leaves behind clues, patterns that reveal what truly preserves wealth and what fades to dust. And if you look closely, the people who endure these collapses aren't the ones who believed the most. They're the ones who started doubting first. Take the Byzantine Empire, the eastern remnant of Rome that somehow lasted 1,000 years after the West fell. At the heart of its economy was the gold solidus, a coin so consistent and pure that merchants from Europe to Asia accepted it without hesitation. For centuries, it was the world's most trusted currency, the medieval equivalent of the US dollar. But history has a sense of irony. Centuries earlier, Rome had destroyed the value of its silver denarius by mixing it with cheaper metals until it was nearly worthless. You would think the Byzantines would have learned that lesson. Instead, they made the same mistake with gold. Over time, they thinned the solidus, blending in cheaper alloys to stretch their reserves. At first, no one noticed. Then confidence cracked, and once trust was gone, trade faltered. The coin that had held empires together became just another empty promise. The Byzantine economy never fully recovered. Who survived? Not those holding imperial coins or paper guarantees, but those holding real assets. Gold, land, tangible value that governments couldn't counterfeit. That's lesson number one. When states tamper with their money, real value always escapes into things they can't print. But not every collapse comes from political greed. Sometimes catastrophe strikes out of nowhere. In the mid-14th century, Europe was devastated by the Black Death. Between 1347 and 1351, as much as half the population died. Cities emptied. Farms were abandoned. Trade routes fell silent. But the economic story that followed was more complex than pure ruin. When half the workers vanish, labor becomes precious. Wages rose, land prices dropped, and suddenly the survivors had leverage they'd never dreamed of. Families who still had silver tools, or even just the ability to work, could seize opportunities that had once been impossible. Land that cost a fortune before the plague could now be bought for almost nothing. Sound familiar? It should. During the COVID pandemic, we watched a modern version unfold. Supply chains broke. Governments printed trillions to keep the system afloat. And the gap between those with assets and those without exploded. Home prices surged. The stock market rebounded instantly, and those with cash or liquidity bought even more, while millions living paycheck to paycheck fell behind. Pandemics, it turns out, don't just take lives, they redistribute wealth. After the Black Death, survivors rose into new social classes. After COVID, those with capital grew wealthier as everyone else struggled to keep up. The truth is harsh, but constant. Crises reward those with reserves and punish those without. If pandemics show how quickly a system can flip, the banking crash of Renaissance Florence shows how even giants can fall. In the 1340s, Florence was Europe's financial powerhouse. Its great banking families, the Bardi, the Peruzzi, financed kings and empires. Their biggest client was Edward III of England, who borrowed vast sums to fund his wars with France. When he defaulted, the results were catastrophic. Both banking houses collapsed. Depositors were wiped out. Commerce froze. The richest city in Europe plunged into crisis. The lesson was unforgettable. Too big to fail was a myth even in the 14th century. Size doesn't equal safety, and reputation doesn't equal security. When powerful institutions crumble, they take ordinary people down with them. It's a pattern that's repeated ever since, from Florence to the crash of 2008, to Lebanon's frozen banks in 2019. Institutions are designed to protect themselves, not you. When they fall, they won't fall alone. The American Civil War offers another brutal reminder, not just of battlefields, but of what happens when money itself collapses. To fund the war, both the Union and the Confederacy began printing paper money. In the North, they called them greenbacks, backed not by gold, but by faith in the US government. At first, it seemed noble and necessary. But as the presses kept rolling, inflation eroded their value. In the South, the situation was far worse. The Confederacy printed graybacks by the billions. By 1865, their currency had collapsed completely. Prices soared thousands of %. Soldiers' wages couldn't buy food. Families carried sacks of paper just to afford a loaf of bread. When the war ended, Confederate money was worthless. What held its value? Not paper, but hard assets. Land, food, gold. Tangible goods became the only real currency. It's a story most Americans never hear, but they should, because it happened right here. The US has already experienced a currency collapse. And the people who survived weren't the ones clinging to patriotic paper. They were the ones holding what the government couldn't inflate away. A generation later, revolutionary France repeated the same mistake. In the 1790s, revolutionaries overthrew the monarchy and issued a new currency called the assignat, supposedly backed by confiscated church land. But soon, they printed more and more to fund the revolution. Each new issue diluted the last. Prices exploded, wages stagnated, and soon the assignat became worthless. Farmers refused to sell food for paper, demanding silver or goods instead. Bread riots erupted. The revolution that promised liberty ended in chaos and famine. And once again, the winners weren't the patriots clutching paper. They were the ones holding food, gold, or property. The lesson, no matter how noble the cause, promises are only worth what others believe in. When that belief dies, so does your money. Fast forward to the Asian financial crisis of 1997. It started with a speculative attack on the Thai baht. Thailand had borrowed heavily in US dollars, confident its currency would hold. When it didn't, the entire system imploded. Debt denominated in foreign money became impossible to pay. Investors fled. Currencies across Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, South Korea collapsed in a chain reaction. Millions lost jobs. Governments begged the IMF for help. The hardest hit weren't the hedge funds who caused it. It was ordinary people. Their savings vanished. Their loans doubled in cost. Their economies were gutted. Once again, those who survived best were those who held hard currency or foreign assets, not those who trusted local systems. And those debts in foreign money, they became traps that crushed entire nations. The pattern is clear. Debt in someone else's currency is a financial noose. When crisis hits, the debtor always drowns first. By now, the story should sound familiar. From Byzantium to France, from Civil War America to modern Asia, the same themes repeat. Paper money fails. Debt enslaves. Trust evaporates.